Hi, we're on the River Kennet. The project we're going to look at is aimed at addressing issues on both the river and the adjacent wetlands, the Triple SI. Key project partners are the estate, Natural England, the Environment Agency and the contractors Windrush AEC Limited. We're going to look at the project from the bottom end up. So the first site we're going to look at is the fish pass at the bottom of Beat 4. Right, so we're at the bottom of the river now, the bottom of the reach that we were working on. This is one of the most important sections of the river that we did. It's an old eel pass, the site of an old eel trap rather. There were original stone and brick walls in place, but there was a large impoundment, as you can see, which held up fish passage and also meant that upstream the levels were very high, impounded with all the problems that we normally get, siltation, issues of poor habitat quality. So we redesigned the eel trap to make a fish pass, and it's a simple 3-pool and traverse pass with oak baffles inserted into steel uprights on brick walls. Very simple design, but actually building this was one of the biggest challenges we faced. We had to install an inflatable aqua dam here and take it down every night. We had something like 9 pumps in there, including several 4- and 5-inch pumps that had to be dragged out each evening, taken away because of the risk of vandalism. So it was a real logistic exercise to get the footings cast in concrete and then build up the brickwork on top of that. So the lads who did that work and did the brickwork were actually laying bricks waist deep in water. Everything had to be brought down from a car park at the top by skip loader. Very slow, very hard work, not an easy site. And that fish pass has now withstood the biggest flows on the Kennet for something like 100 years last winter. No damage, no problems, and as far as we know, it's functioning very well. This section of the river we managed to lower the water level by adjusting the sluices downstream. So we're about 300 mil lower than we used to be on water level here, which allowed us to regrade both banks. This side that I'm standing on has been pushed in and bladed over with the machine and then replanted with a wildflower seed mix, which will be ideal for a hay meadow in future years. The far bank was a big elevated bund of gravel which had come from a river past dredging work on the river. We pushed that flat and moved the river bank probably 3 to 4 metres further out behind a revetment of chestnut stakes and faggots. And you can see also that we've put a lot of woody debris and brushwood through the revetment into the river. It's already started to cause some good local scour. It's hanging up some cress, some forget-me-not, and in the channel where the velocities increase, we've got water parsnip, we've got ranunculus, we've got milfoil already beginning to develop, and a lot of small fish have moved in from elsewhere, and there's probably some evidence of recruitment this year of trout. The one thing which we didn't do, which we were hampered by the access and the availability of material, we were unable to put gravel in there. We had no good source of gravel locally to introduce to the bed as we've done upstream on several sections. And that's probably the weakness of this section. If we'd had a good source of gravel, we'd have put 1,000 tonnes in, and that would have made all the difference. As it is, we're having to wait for the river to recover naturally, squeeze itself in, give it 3 or 4 years, and this will really begin to look very good. We're standing just upstream of Lack Bridge now. This is part of phase 1 work we did. On the far bank was very extensive growth of trees, very shaded, an over-wide channel, very uniform and dull. So we cleared a lot of these trees on the far bank, a lot of chainsaw work, and you can see the cushions of cress on the far bank again. That's where the trees have been put into the water and the woody debris and brushwood faggots between them. And again, there was a huge bank, raised bank, a metre plus high of excavated gravel, which we pushed into the river and redistributed, and then pushed the banks out to narrow that side, the true left bank, by probably about 4 or 5 metres in places, a lot more light onto the channel. And again, on this right bank, adjacent to the triple SI, which is just the other side of a fence, we cut the bank, pushed it in, kept the margin together and eased it into the river, and then backfilled behind. Same again as elsewhere, wildflower mix on the bank, ready to be managed as a hay meadow as time goes on. And again, lots of vegetation in the river, a lot of ranunculus, not a big ranunculus year this year, but plenty of cover there on the edges and in the channel for fish. Okay, we're standing at the pump house, big historic structure used to impound water to drive the water meadows, which are now triple SI meadows. The key elements in this part of the scheme were to lower the retained head upstream by opening the sluices in the pump house. We dropped the upstream water level by about 0.6, 0.9 of a metre. We then removed unsightly sheet piling along the right-hand bank and regraded that bank at a lower level to increase connectivity with the floodplain. We narrowed the channel on both sides, introduced woody debris and faggots to get a soft edge, plenty of cover, and we introduced something like 1,500 tonnes of gravel excavated from a weed pit, which we enlarged. We also used an existing bypass channel to create a fish bypass around the pump house. That was worked fairly effectively. And the final key element was the linkage between the water meadow and the main river. We renovated a number of sluices in the water meadow, which had become redundant. We dredged out and reprofiled some silted up water meadow channels and put in some simple control structures, pipe control structures, which allow us to run the meadow now and improve its conservation value. So the linkage between the main river and the adjacent floodplain is very important in this element of the work. So this is the 4th section of the river. Phase 1 was the last bit of phase 1. We're upstream of Rags Hatches. Again, Rags Hatches were holding the river up and stopping fish migration. So we lifted the hatches and lowered the water level here by about 300 to 400 mil, and then pushed in the banks on this side, felled a lot of trees on the other side. You can see a lot of bushy growth there of cress and willow herb where it's gathered around those trees we've pinned in. Nice fluffy edge, narrow the river in, lots of cover. And then from the floodplain over to my right, we dug something in the region of 1,000, 1,500 tonnes of gravel, brought it all in with a track dumper, put it into the river and raised the riverbed by about 250 mil. Rob the keeper then planted a huge amount of ranunculus. He's done some more bits of work. You can see here, added more brushwood bundles, more faggots to try and do little bits of localised narrowing. And 18 months later, we've got a great variety of submerged plants. And all along the fringe, we've got a lovely array of flowers, hempagrimony, we've got purple loosestrife, the mints, non-native monkey flower, peacock butterflies here. And again, this is all wildflower mix all the way along the edge of the river, the angler's path, and that's going to be cut for hay later in the year and maintained as a hay meadow. This area is going to be excellent for spawning. We saw some reds here in the winter 2013, winter 2014. Trout spawning, good numbers of grayling on the reach. Possibly a bit low for, a bit shallow for holding fish for anglers during this hot weather. Plenty of fish so at night coming in off of the edges up from under the cover. Really good piece of river with a lot of protection from predators and a lot of potential now for recruitment. Yep, this top section's been a real success story. So one of the things we did here was to let a lot more light into the channel by felling trees on the bank over here. You can see on the edge there's quite a few bits of woody debris, fluffy edges where we've got brushwood packed in. And then on my left you can see the original line of the channel, and I'm standing on a causeway constructed from the flint gravel from the floodplain, again making more scrapes and faggot bundles either side. So we worked our way back out, building this causeway, which has narrowed the river very, very effectively, and we've got some lovely soft edges now where the faggots are. A lot of juvenile fish in here, a lot of juvenile grayling, we said salmon there, juvenile grayling and trout in the river. Good spawning success. This is a perfect nursery area. So the rods are very keen on coming up here who like fishing for wild fish. And this is one area where no stocking takes place. Towards the top of the reach as well, we've got a bypass on the weir that we've put in, but we can look at that later. Okay, so at top of beat one now, West Lodge sluices are upstream of me, and I'm standing now on a gravel riffle that we introduced to raise the water level. West Lodge sluices had a head loss of about 3/4 of a metre on them, which prevented any fish access. So we've built two very large sluices by introducing flint gravel, again from a floodplain, where we've left a couple of very nice scrapes for waders. This has lifted the water level, and as you'll see, the water now is at about 150, 200 mil, no more lower than the invert on the sluice, and fish are quite free to swim through all stages of flow. The physical work we've been looking at is just part of the whole change in ethos of the way the estate's running a fishery, moving towards lower stock levels, brown trout only, and working towards self-sustaining stocks of wild brown trout and graylings. It's obviously going to take a while, but already this year we've seen good recruitment of small brown trout and grayling which haven't been here before. Try and perhaps operate a bit more on a catch and release basis and move towards what we're all aiming to see, which is self-sustaining stocks of brown trout which provide a good recreational fishery.